Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing more of the dual casting seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which the first special card we play in our turn, we play twice. Today we're revisiting an extremely powerful deck that got even stronger from a new card from the Claw and Dagger expansion, so let's go give it a look. So today we'll be revisiting our Syndicate Lined Pockets Crimes deck that has been extremely effective in this event because we have incredible ability to create crimes and therefore create coins and do a whole bunch of damage or boosting with those coins. And we did, of course, get a new card from the Claw and Dagger expansion that makes that even easier for us because Open Sesame gives us a great source of coin generation. It's going to give us enough to max out our coins in one turn because we play it twice, and we get 2 copies of it in our graveyard. And after having gone down to 0 coins on 6 occasions, we will then get a second dose of coins, and because we have 2 of these in our graveyard, that means 8 coins we're getting, and that gives us carryover of some variety, or maybe even value in the same round, although it is a lot of counters, so it takes a little bit of time to make that happen. But there are some very creative things we can do with that. Of course, coins are coins, and that means it is even easier for us to get tons of value from Bare-Knuckle Brawler, which is one of the best cards in this event. So this loves us playing crimes, both for the boosts and for spending for damage, and if we can't get the ones that are from our starting deck, then we can use Eventide Plunder to get more of them, or Runemage to give us a little more flexibility, a little more options, so that it's more likely that we get them when we play Eventide Plunder, or of course the Shady Vendor, who if we play in the melee row can give us Eventide Plunder, which can then, once again, give us more Bare-Knuckle Brawlers, who are just incredible in this event. However, the Brawlers are a little bit limited in how many coins they can spend per turn, because if you destroy every unit that your opponent has, you can't use their abilities anymore. And that's where we bring in the Coerced Blacksmith, because he's a little bit better at reliably getting you down to 0 coins every turn so you can proc that counter for the Open Sesame. And one of the other things that getting that extra doses of coins from the Open Sesame helps us with is getting easier value on Binci, because Binci, when set up properly, can get ridiculously powerful, but it requires that you do that quickly, otherwise there's a lot of control in this event, and playing 2 special cards every turn means that your opponent can destroy Binci if she doesn't get boosted really quickly. So there are ways in which you can immediately get Binci boosted up with the extra dosage of coins from Open Sesame. In particular, if you use Lined Pockets to give you 1 coin, and then use either a Bare-Knuckle Brawler or one of the Coerced Blacksmiths to immediately spend that coin, that procs 1 counter for Open Sesame, and then you can rinse, repeat multiple times in the same turn to immediately get Binci boosted by 8 from the Open Sesames in your graveyard on the same turn that you play her, making it much harder for your opponent to answer her. And if she stays on the board for 1 turn, that means next turn you can play special cards that give you more coins, and at that point she is almost impossible for your opponent to take out. So those are the key things that we've changed this time around, in addition to, of course, other cards that help us play more of the crimes because they're so helpful. We also have more Intimidate engines, most notably Sir Skewertooth, another good way to get yourself down to 0 coins if you use a couple of leader ability charges, then giving it the immunity on the tribute, and then you can bring that back in a later round with Renew and possibly even one of the Bare-Knuckle Brawlers or Blacksmith, because those guys are so useful in this event. And then from there, basically just spam whatever other crimes you have that fit the situation. For the most part, it's things like Fisstech for removal and coin generation, or pure damage from stuff like Hysteria. So with that, we have crazy control and also potential for lots of boosts on both Binci and on the Blacksmiths. So let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here, and we'll go first. Okay, so we have Skewertooth, who's a good card to lead off with, as well as the Brawler and Blacksmith, both very strong coin spenders. We have Heatwave, which we need to be a little bit careful of when they're double crossed, but Renew, good way to get Skewertooth back in a later round. Congregation, I mean, it can be a first turn play if you don't have Skewertooth, but since we do, not too concerned about that. Open Sesame, good in round 1 in particular. So I think this puts us in a decent place here. Novigradian Justice, just want to make sure that we have Crown Splitters in our deck to get out with it, and we have 2 of our 4 in our hand here. So give ourselves a little more flexibility there in case something else happens to our other Crown Splitters. Yeah, we'll go this first. I was going to say, we can do exactly 2 coins to get the perfect amount for the tribute here, which is nice to do to get exactly down to 0 if you've already played Open Sesame, though of course we haven't done that yet. So we'll do this. This is something to be cautious of when you're going against Skellige in particular, because with Delirium, which is pretty common for them to run, they can still hit a unit that has the immunity. That's... oh. Did not expect. I was about to say, that's Not very common for Nilfgaard, though. They didn't directly remove Skewertooth, but they obviously got rid of the immunity, which was a valuable thing for us to have on him. So now, why don't we go for an open sesame, because as I was just saying, that is something we like to play early, so we can set this up, because 6 counters is a lot. And this will boost Skewertooth up as well, so he is certainly still in removal range if they dedicate a special to him, which I imagine they will do here, but it will require that they get a little aggressive with that. And Matza will not do the trick, but that does potentially suggest they might be doing mill. So need to be a little wary of that. Now that we've played Open Sesame, we would like to be very aggressive with spending our coins. So, let's see, you are a Crown Splitter, so technically, Novigradian Justice would get some extra value. However, if they're mill, we want to be very mindful of not using tutors like Novigradian Justice or Vivaldi Bank, so let's not do that just yet. Let's maybe we'll go Bare-Knuckle Brawler here. And we'll spend all of our all the coins we can spend here. One of the things that makes the Brawler a little bit worse at getting down to 0 coins relative to the Blacksmith is, as we saw here, we can't spend all of our coins because they don't have enough units. We have more than enough damage. They'll purify him, but or rather they'll lock him, the exact opposite of what I just said. But we've many ways to get more of them, so not really concerned about that, because we can, for example, go Melee Rose Shady Vendor, and that would be a pretty good time for us to do that, because we get exactly 0 coins after doing this, which is, as I was just saying, what we would like to do here. Notably, we've not yet used Runemage, so fewer options than we would like to see. And we could go for damage, could go for wide points on our side. Kind of am leaning toward this, to be honest with you. Okay, and there it is. It is mill. Okay. I was highly suspicious. Highly suspicious. And they did get rid of one of our tutors, which, again, of all the things they could get rid of, that's probably one of the better ones, because we don't want to do the thinning for them, which is, in a way, what things like Vivaldi Bank and Novigradian Justice would do, even if they do have some decent point-scoring potential. So we could use an Eventide Plunder and try to get another Brawler, because that would be quite useful, and we don't really have a spender. Yeah, I think it's that. And there it is. Perfect. Okay. I'm gonna put you here. And, sure, we'll take another one in case they do some lock. And they do have Intimidate, so they are engines as well. So I will deliberately spend all of our coins here. And then this gets us a perfect amount of coins to wipe out the 2 of you and go back down to 0 coins. So it is possible to do that multiple times on the same turn. So Open Sesame doesn't necessarily have to be limited to just 1 counter per turn. Okay, that's obviously going to be what they target with Vilgefortz. Don't really think they wanted to see a Bare-Knuckle Brawler, though. Okay, so now the tricky thing is we have a large lead. We would like to win round 1. We would like to not have to play any more cards than we absolutely have to. And the issue is that we are getting to the point where we might need to do some tutoring, which for the most part I'd like to mulligan these guys back into our deck and potentially have them mill these instead. So otherwise it's Triss or it's Fisstech, which removes Vilgefortz, and then we don't have anything to hit with these guys. So I think Triss, it very much does feel like overkill. But I guess we'll do this. None of these are particularly good for us, but we'll do it because we basically have to. Don't have any other good alternative. That could have been worse. And now the large lead continues to grow and perhaps is big enough, yeah, that it is not feasible for them to catch us. So they are mill, which means we should probably push for the 2-0 win, otherwise we run the risk of them removing enough cards from our deck that we can't draw into a full hand in round 3, functionally giving them card advantage. Okay, and we draw into a few more of our spenders, so that is good. That way we can make sure we get value out of our coins. Would have liked to have seen a Runemage in round 1. Still not bad to see it here, but let's definitely mulligan these guys out. They would normally be very valuable cards for us, but the problem is, if we get forced into playing them, then we're going to reduce the number of cards in our deck quite significantly, since they both summon out 2 cards apiece, so that just makes their mill job that much easier. So let's Runemage now. And let's use it to perhaps go the Nilfgaard route, since there's not a Syndicate runestone. Obviously nothing for us to do with you. They have not won a round, so unfortunately Nausicaa Sergeant does not work on this occasion. We obviously don't have a hunting pack in our deck, so none of these are particularly good. Let's go hunting pack. And then, we'll use their mill against them. Take that. Okay, so we would like to renew to get our pig boy back out. Yeah, they're going to steal Runemage, and they're probably going to play him. Obviously, of course, they're going to play all the most toxic cards they can get. Before we do this, I almost forgot. Let's go a couple charges of lined pockets. That way we have enough coins to, once again, get the immunity. Hopefully this time they won't be able to purify. That means should be relatively safe, and we'll probably get out a brawler with the other round, and we'll be on exactly 0 coins, so we'll help ourselves get a little bit closer toward getting the extra value off the open sesame. So we do this. We could also Ferko, but again, that's also a tutor, so don't really want to do that. We'll go here, that, and then we'll do this. Okay, they're gonna lock you, but we have more spenders, and that's why I was saying before that it's a good thing that we drew into some of them. So Heatwave would be a little bit scary, but that's why the immunity was key. Because, I mean, sure, yeah, they'll do it, but it's functionally just 8 points of value, which is not great. Not great, especially when one of the cards, the Heatwave, was already locked. So, that being said, I was probably hoping we would use a Fisstech. I mean, granted, that's not a very good target to go after with it, but it'd give us a lot of coins, which helps to set up those brawlers. Binci. We would like to get her on the board and immediately activate Open Sesame, which is possible if we first go with a Blacksmith, and we need that Blacksmith to stick around. So let's see, because our hope here is to get Binci high enough that she's out of removal range. We actually don't have a lot of special cards. Not a lot of crimes. In fact, almost none in our hand. If I had realized that, perhaps I would not have gone with the Renew into Skewertooth here. Might have just gone for a second Brawler for more spenders. Okay, now that Blacksmith is not terribly valuable for them, and this Duchess's Informant could even Heatwave it, but no, we probably should. Okay, so what we're gonna do now, Binci, and we're gonna boost her. Yeah, let's do it. She's gonna get very tall, so if they have more tall removal, they're gonna want to use it here. But now we're at 0 coins. However, we do this, we're at 0 coins again. Boost you this time, which means we just got both charges of the Open Sesame activated. Just spreading the boost so that if they do have tall removal, it's not the world's most valuable tall removal on Binci. And they might do something to mess with our Blacksmith, so I want to spend our coins here. But we got the value on the Open Sesame on the same turn that we played Binci, and that way we could get Binci boosted up extremely quickly. This is going to be lock. Yep. Okay, and again, that's why I did it. That's why I spent aggressively. But if they have a, okay, yeah, understandable, they'd go after you. I was curious to see, do they not have another target for it? Do they only get 1 card out with it? Everything else was a gold. Oh, wow. So I was going to say, if they have a, now I'm blanking on the name, the card that destroys a unit that is locked, then they could have used that on Binci, which would have been a bit of a risk. Have they played our Heatwave with their leader ability. They might have a Heatwave in their starting deck, though, so there is still some risk of that. They have locked you, which means that at the moment, we don't have a way to spend the coins we get from Fisstech. So we kind of need to go with the Blacksmith. Gord is fully set up here, so I think this might have to be a Blacksmith's turn. Gives us a little more value on you, and once again, I think we do what we can to immediately get the value out of you. And at this point, we're basically just using all the coins we can get because we've already gotten the Open Sesames to proc. And again, we have to go 2-0 because they're mill, so we run the risk of not having any cards to draw into if we let this go to round 3. But it also means that mill tends not to be very good at scoring points. So that is the advantage that we may have. The good thing is, if they're trying to get Assimilate to be their source of points, it's hard to do that when you don't have consistent coin generation, he says, as they get a little bit of coin generation. However, if you want to go tall with some cards, that would make for nicer Heatwave targets, or even Fisstech, which I think we could go Blacksmith would probably be the preferred target. That gives us maximum coinage for our Blacksmith to boost other stuff. And again, that's the big difference. We can get way more value out of this than they can. And that is finally an actual crime to boost Skewertooth, which, as I said, had I realized we did not have that many crimes in our hand, I perhaps would not have used Renew on him. I know there's a chance they might remove you if they do have the card whose name still eludes me, because I haven't been thinking about it. But, again, trying to spread out our boosts here so that if they do have tar removal, it's not an instant win situation for them just by getting rid of one of these guys. Renew. Now they can get some golds here. So it's more mill. I suppose we shouldn't be surprised. Although that's actually going to help us, in all likelihood. because we were looking for more crimes. So we were kind of low on those, and you gave us some. So this is what I meant. That's why I went wide on the boost, or at least spread out the boost across different units. That's also a very useful card for us to get on the board. So, all right, we will now play the very card that they gave us with the Congregation. We don't have any Firesworn cards on the board at the moment, so we'll probably just load up our range row with these guys. And we don't have enough coins. In fact, we will never get enough coins to use Cleaver here in all likelihood. They don't know that, though. So let's use the Blacksmith's fee to boost up some of these guys, and maybe they will overreact to Cleaver. Okay, it's a coup on this Informants, which they'll use to get another Blacksmith, I assume. But if they don't boost immediately, I mean, either way, it's probably going to be our Heatwave target. These Blacksmiths. You could even make a case for having Heatwaved the Informant. I think I was considering it when they first played it. Oh. Okay. They have 3 potential cards that would be interesting to Heatwave. I mean, Mata is, yes, higher base point value, but these are their spenders. They have 7 coins to spend. These can boost other guys. You can only boost yourself, but yeah, I guess we can't prevent them from getting value out of their coins at this point. So no matter which one of these 3 we leave, it will be able to do something. So for that reason, I think it actually does make sense for us to go Mata and Vilgefortz. It's going to be 1 point per coin no matter what. You know what? We'll Gord now. We have enough big units that I'm not that concerned about him getting removed with Tolerable, because they've already used some of that with Vilgefortz, and, you know, they already had a target with the Blacksmith. So it's not as if they had any reason to hold back on the Tolerable before, and this just gives us more time to see what the best option will be for the Heatwave removal, since if they use those coins, it will become a little more obvious, and in general, just them having played more stuff means it is more clear. Like, this Seductress would be great if they had gotten it earlier, but obviously they didn't, so this is not going to get boosted at all at this point. So I think it's still Mata and Vilgefortz. Now we can say that a little more definitively. Well, let's do this. And this. And now that means they need to score over 40 points in 2 turns, which I don't think they can do. But we shall see. There's the coin spending that we would have loved for them to have done on the previous turn, although they obviously didn't. Blue Dream, what are they going to get? I mean, some stuff that can give them value from the coins, perhaps, although they already did that. So that's just not going to be enough. And then Binci, which, again, value from coins, but it's just so much harder to do that when you don't have all the setup that we have, and so they realize they can't stop us, and they'll just stop right there. Alright, so going to begin Skellige here, and we'll go first. Alright, so there are some really strong Skellige decks in this event. Infinite Compass being the most dangerous, but Raids and just General Alchemy, both strong as well. Okay, so what we have here, don't really want to be starting with a Shady Vendor. We want to have more coins first. Congregation's not a terrible turn 1 play. Eventide Plunder is potentially very good as well. But I think maybe we dump one of you. I mean, Blacksmith does help us have a guaranteed Novigradian Justice setup. It is also an easy target for them to go after. Okay, Open Sesame is not a bad first turn play, because that gives us some potential to immediately get value if we are to put a spender on the board. I mean, we can't really use the Blacksmith unless and until we get someone else. But if we are to use something like a Novigradian Justice to get some peoples, or Vivaldi Bank. So, let's go this first, and I think it also may benefit us because it would be useful to know what kind of deck our opponent is trying to run here, and I think we can learn a lot from what they start off with here. Alright, Oniro. Runemage. Maybe it is pure alchemy then. I mean, technically, by tutoring out Runemage, it means you're only getting 1 copy of the actual rune he creates, so that's not the most efficient card to tutor out with Oniro. Okay, so there's Dazbog Runestone. They might be going for Assimilate in that case, if they're specifically targeting Nilfgaard. This is what surprises me. The Spear Maiden. It's an odd choice to include in their deck, and then they just go for boosts in armor. Okay. I mean, Sure. But now that we have a bunch of coins, we can get aggressive. If we go Eventide Plunder, we'd probably like to see Brawlers, then we can go crazy with our spending there, plus our stratagem as well. So that's what I'm eyeing at the moment. Otherwise, you could go Shady Vendor, we slightly overprofit, and you could get an Eventide Plunder there if you were to go melee row, or at least potentially. Let's go for the sure thing, though, because I really like this. This card, the Brawler, is just so incredible in this event, so we will take 2 of them, because they are also engines, since they have Intimidate. So we're going to go crazy here. We're going to spend all of our coins, and then we will probably do this, and then we will probably once again spend all of our coins, because that helps us get the open Sesames primed and ready to go a little more quickly. Delirium can take both of them out. Would have liked to, I mean, we could have used a few more leader ability charges to completely destroy you, because Battle Trance, I feel like a lot of people forget this, but it does have a passive component to it, where when they play an alchemy card, they will heal a damaged unit, and obviously these guys are both damaged. But we may be able to repeat what we did before with something like a Shady Vendor. We would actually need some coins to make that happen, or we could Vivaldi Bank and see what we get out of that. So maybe we go that route, because this does give us a little bit of coinage as well, and there is exactly the type of card that I'm looking for. And Runemage is great, but this is not really the way that I'd like to be playing it. As I was saying before, when they used a tutor to get their Runemage. Okay, so now we can do this and remove both of them. And now, at this point, Open Sesame may not get the extra coinage in this round, but it does potentially give us some carryover. Let's see. They go Tunnel Drill, which is a card we would like to remove. Although, then again, there's Skellige. It's unlikely they'll find a way to get a lot of coins here. They will be able to do some stuff with Hjalmar here. Okay, interesting. So, we could Coerced Blacksmith, and that would give us a spender that can boost up the Brawler if we're concerned about that going down. Alternatively, because it has Intimidate, just the process of playing crimes will give us some coins to give it some more firepower to hit them. They, will not have any coins to use anymore, so in truth, that's not really an issue. This might be a good opportunity for us to Novigradian Justice, though, although we actually have a lot of our Crown Splitters either already played or in our hands. We actually would not get great value out of... We'd only be able to tutor 1 card. So, maybe let's go Triss. See what we get out of her. And go Eventide Plunder, maybe. And this gives us some more coinage, which I do like. And this gives us another way to get good value there. So, sure. Still not quite enough to remove both of them. But now we are getting, again, ever closer to the extra round of coinage. A Guara. And this is looking like a Skellige Assimilate deck at this point. In fact, I think they have had basically every Assimilate card in their deck. Okay, I would say that that is very odd that they happen to get the same card twice. They did, of course, however, play Runemage, so shouldn't be too surprised about that, I suppose. I really wish we had Coerced Blacksmith in our deck, because then Novigradian Justice becomes much more palatable. However, we may still do this even if we technically can't tutor anyone out with the second round. Yeah, I don't think we can. I mean, we still... Oh, we don't have a Crown Splitter on the board anymore, though. Which means we don't spawn in the extra unit either. Might go for some leader ability charges here to set up a Shady Vendor. I think I will. This is, of course, the downside of it. Technically, that was 1 more than I had to spend, but... Let's go pay the tribute. This is the downside of spending every coin on every turn. But I'm sure at this point, they are not thrilled about us having, might even go for you. Not thrilled about us having a Bare-Knuckle Brawler every turn. And so they'll pass. They'll give us this win for round 1, and maybe an opportunity for us to put the Blacksmith back into our deck so we can get more reliable Novigradian Justice value. Okay, and we draw into Renew, which is mostly here to set up getting additional replaying Skewertooth, but we haven't seen him yet, although we have so many brawlers in our graveyard, and as we've seen, they are very effective. So, not necessarily a terrible option to do that. Let's put you back, though. Binci could be very useful for us, especially when we have a bunch of those Open Sesames that are close to proccing here. We have more Open Sesames here as well. Fisstech, amazing for removal purposes. I mean, this looks pretty good. This looks pretty good. And we have played one more card than our opponent. We have one throwaway here if we'd like to use it. I'm thinking maybe we go Open Sesame, and that way we have some additional coins that we will carry over into the next round, and if we can get this counter 6 to proc, then we may also have a way to get the extra coins in round 3 from that as well. So let's do this. Okay, they'll go Drakkar, and perhaps they recognize that this is an opportunity for them to just use some throwaways, but we don't really have the intention of playing here. And Squirrel, curious what they go for. Probably one of our Open Sesames would be the best option. One of the ones that had, yeah, only 3 counters left. I think they did remove that. We still have the ones that have the 6s, but those may not have enough time for us to get that out. Okay, so we do draw into Skewertooth, however, we also draw into the Blacksmith, which, as I was saying before, we are lacking Crown Splitters in our deck, so we want to keep you there so we can get you. And we do have a Runemage now, which is perhaps a little bit late, but I suppose I can still set up Shady Vendor. Okay, this is looking like that's going to be their target for Battle Trance. We do, of course, have a Heatwave, which we could use to remove this Draco Turtle and maybe a Defender if they try to protect it with that. We would kind of like to lead with a Skewertooth with the Tribute to make it immune. However, Skellige in particular is perhaps the most capable of removing cards with immunity, because if they were to use Delirium, they could still remove you. So we might start with maybe a Runemage first and just see what we get out of that. And that way we have more cards in this row. I think we'll go Nilfgaard, and if we can get Assimilate, that would be kind of nice. We did not. These are actually all pretty terrible. Besides if we Heatwave you. And that's not that bad, I suppose. Likewise there. And now lots of points on this row, so that means next turn we could perhaps use a Skewertooth, and it'd be much safer. So that's the logic there. Okay, Snowdrop is a key card for Infinicompass, but it is way too late for them to be doing that, so that's a little odd. But why don't we take this opportunity to go Skewertooth now, and we want to make sure that we have enough coins to use the Tribute here, and we should have just that, so let's pay it. Okay, Lady of the Lake, for it is a Compass, but it's just not anywhere near competitive compared to Infinicompass. It's not at the same level, is what I mean to say. Because you're getting 1 Magic Compass here, when Infinicompass can play 20. Destroy random enemy unit. Okay, fine. Would have preferred Runemage, of course, but I think they were just hoping and praying that they got Skewertooth, and they didn't, so they forfeit. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here, and they'll go first. Okay, so we have a Runemage in hand, which is a good way to start things off, so we have more flexibility with things like Shady Vendor, so that's not bad. We do have, thought I saw, Ferko, which we can use to get Novigradian Justice, which means we'd like to keep some of our Crown Splitters in deck, and we don't have that many bronze ones. It's just a couple of Blacksmiths and a couple of Brawlers, so let's put some of these guys back into our deck. And okay, this looks a little bit better then. Okay, Royal Decree. It is, I'm wondering if this is Mill, because Mill is unfortunately quite common in this event, and it's Nilfgaard. And no, yes it is. Yes, it is. Okay, well, there goes Novigradian Justice. Never mind. So much for optimizing around that. It also does nothing for them, so they just handed us a point with Cantarella. I mean, that's what you get for blindly Cantarellaing. But now we could Hysteria and remove you, and then we could, I mean, presumably they're gonna wanna use Coup on Cantarella, so we could even Heatwave Cantarella and then Heatwave Vigo, or you. I mean, it's not a fantastic Heatwave, but it is a little bit tempting. So, I'll tell you what, we'll do it. Just to ruin their day. Because that's what they're trying to do, is ruin ours. We are a little susceptible to mill, for what it's worth, with this deck, just because we do have a lot of tutors with things like Ferko, with things like Novigradian Justice. Granted, they got rid of that, so that's one of the reasons why I'm being pretty aggressive with how I'm approaching that. And if it turns out they're not playing mill, then that was an overreaction to Heatwave the Cantarella, but we'll see. These are... Obviously, Assimilate is really strong in this event, so that's why I was tempted to go after those right off the bat. Could still destroy you with Hysteria if we went double Hysteria on you. Can't do it with the Torturer, because that Veil is actually a little bit problematic, at least for Hysteria. And yeah. Okay. So I think, or we could go Ferko and use him to get, and Fisstech could also remove you regardless of how big you get. Let's do, maybe we'll try Runemage and see what we get here. We'll go Nilfgaard, in fact. And we will Purify, get Assimilate, which first of all is fantastic, as we were just saying. Purify the Veil, because as we were just saying, that is a little bit tricky to deal with. Don't have anything we can target with you guys, unfortunately. Yeah. This is not Assimilate anymore. It used to be, but yeah. I was hoping they had something small enough that we could hit it with Banishment, with the Contaminators, but not so on this occasion. Still not 100% sure if this is a wholesome Assimilate deck. Okay, now it's looking a little more like a wholesome Assimilate deck, rather than a mill deck. Well, and Runemage is as good as it gets in terms of targets for them, with the bribery. So we played this as if they were a mill deck, and they were Assimilate, which means we did not shut down engines as aggressively as we could have shut them down. Okay, they were smart and spread out their boosts, because we can still destroy some of these guys if we were to go the Fisstech route. So that can give us a lot of tempo, which means although they have a very large lead now, they've obviously played one more card than us, and it's not necessarily as insurmountable of a deficit as it may first appear. But I mispredicted what they were going for, and we have already been punished to a certain extent, and trying to catch up to them outside of Fisstech would be rather tricky. So I think what we might do here is maybe we just go Open Sesame, and rather than trying to win this round, we'll just go for the carryover, because Open Sesame does give us some carryover by putting a potential long-term source of coinage in our graveyard. It also does give us coins to work with, of course, so we could get something like a Brawler down here and deal some damage with that, or use the Tribute on the Vendor. So it does give us flexibility if we feel the need to go further, but a Sire in their range row, which they're using to put... I thought it was going to be a Royal Decree, and then it wasn't. I think it was a Bribery then. So they played a few of those, right? It's a little bit of a lower tempo play, but it does set them up for stronger round 2 or round 3. So does that give us a little more hope to catch them here? It might. Do have a lot of stuff, though. We might be best served just calling it here. They have played one more card than us, but they may still try to push in round 2. We'll see. Okay, now we draw into one of those Fisstechs, which is good for the removal that we were lacking after we used that Heatwave. I think we dump Congregation here. Don't really want the Blacksmith. Well, then again, they did get rid of our Novigradian Justice, and I was assuming we were going to use that to get him. So maybe it's still not a terrible thing to have in hand, but okay. Brawler, not a bad alternative either. Okay, they are pushing. They are pushing. Don't think they would play a Practitioner, who is a very strong engine, if they did not have intentions of going a little bit further here. We do have 4 coins already, so we could immediately play a Brawler and just destroy you right off the bat, using 1 leader ability charge to give us the coinage to make that happen. Alternatively, we go Shady Vendor. It's a little bit less certain what we get there, but that is a little intriguing because we will get 2 specials out of this. So let's pay the tribute. And Bloody Good Fun works. Hysteria might actually be better still, though, because we'd rather not spend... I mean, we kind of actually do want to spend all of our coins for what it's worth, but... yeah. I think it's Hysteria. It's a little bit better. Okay, now Mata... Now it looks a little more mill-like, but... I mean, Mata is sometimes a little more innocent than that, so let's not rush to conclusions again just yet, at least. Do another Hysteria if we want to go after Mata, which would give us more coins, but this might not be a bad time to get a Brawler down, and we could use our coins. It's actually not possible for us to spend all of them right now because they don't have enough points on their side of the board. That gives us a little flexibility in case we want to spend some stuff soon on our next turn as well, because that is the downside of spending a bunch of coins to set yourself up with the open Sesame is, since we don't have Eveline in our deck, we are truly finishing with 0 coins on our turn when we do that. Okay, they are actually going for some coins, which I find a little surprising. But that might have been their last play, because that was their last throwaway card. So let's maybe avoid doing anything too drastic just yet. So maybe we go with something like Congregation, which is not a huge play for us. It's a bit of a throwaway. It does give us some coins, though, because it's a crime. So we can still do some stuff with the Brawler if we'd like to, and get down to 0 coins, which may still be preferable. Boost you up as well, because you have Intimidate. So let's do this. We'll spend our coins. Alright, they're going for the lock. But I don't think they realize just how many of those Brawlers we can create. Because we have another one in hand. We can very likely get one with Eventide Plunder, if not 2 with Eventide Plunder. And then Ferko can give us another Eventide Plunder to potentially get even more. So if that was their plan, then that may not be as effective as they thought it would be. This is about to give them some coins, which actually could make the Arena Intriga do something. This is not a terrible time for us to go Hysteria and get 2 bounties and units destroyed with them. So I think we just go for it, as that's certainly enough tempo-wise for us and gives us good coinage. Alright, it's a squirrel, which I am curious to see what they go for. I would say an open Sesame was the best target, and they did not do that, though. What did they go after? I'm actually not sure. Yeah, I mean, that would usually be a throwaway in this case, but now they are in pretty serious trouble because they got greed with the bleed attempt, and they are now 2 cards down, and we still have a 10-point lead. So that's pretty darn significant at this point. So I would say maybe we try not to play anything too major. I mean, all the cards we have left are pretty good, though. So maybe we'll go for another Shady Vendor and just see what we get out of this. And it could be Dip in the Pontar, could be Bloody Good Fun just to get rid of all the coins that we have, but, I mean, this is sufficient to destroy you, so I guess we'll just go with that. Okay, Turncoat. I mean, at this point, it just seems like they're trying to eventually force us into playing some big cards that we didn't want to have to play in this round, but not really sure that's going to be all that effective when the whole point of Bleed is that it requires that they are threatening that they can pass us, which is not that easy for them to do when we have, I suppose, our board is not set that much with this lock. But we could drop you, and probably will drop you, in fact. I imagine this is going to be coup on the Shady Vendor, but they don't have the coins to make that do much of anything, so not terribly concerned about that. Here comes Leader Ability. They are now getting desperate, and Fisstech is probably the best option, and did they play Runemage, in which case they have option to take anything they'd like here? They go for the Eventide Plunder, though, and that Bare-Knuckle Brawler does not work nearly as well when you do not have a Crimes deck and you do not have line pockets like we do. So, although it's been very useful for us, I don't think it will be for them. Regis, though. Ooh. Still decent value there. It was almost amazing. We are still in the lead, and at this point now, we're looking at probably having to play some pretty decent stuff. So maybe we'll save Ferko for the flexibility, and we'll just go for an Eventide Plunder here. These guys still have ways to go. In fact, they realized they tried to bleed, they were unsuccessful, they didn't even come close to threatening with that bleed, and so they forfeit. So there's a look at a revamped Syndicate Crimes deck for the new dual casting seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and leave a comment down below. Let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions we should experiment with next. And take a look at our dual casting playlist to see previous decks we've used in this event as well. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.